Hello. I promise I will not talk about CSS, so the AV should be okay. What I want to talk to you about is something that happens to all of us. We all die, right? But we all want to be immortal. We all want to live forever. We all want to be superheroes. The thing is that the first step to eternal life is that we do have to die. And I want to tell you a story. In 13 days, about 20 years ago, on this curve that you see on the screen, I was in a car accident with my boyfriend. And my boyfriend died. I was saved. I had massive guilt because I had survived and he hadn't. But I'm here. And the thing is, we were in our 20s. So when you're in our 20s, you don't think about what's going to come next. We didn't have a will. He definitely didn't have one. But if he had had one, it would have looked something like this. Very simple. So because he did not have a will, his parents could do with his body and his things whatever they wanted. And he wanted to donate his organs. They didn't want. He didn't want to be buried, and they got him a really lovely grave in the cemetery in Italy. And of his things, I got some. And so what I have of him is a box. It's a box like a little bit like this. I have letters, I have photos, I have gifts that is given to me. But the beautiful thing of having this box is that I can open it and close it when I want to. I can make a choice. And so I've moved on. I have a great life. I have a husband. I have 2 kids. I'm here with you today. And I can think about him when I want to. He's not there all the time. I'm not the only one who feels the same way. There was a Medium post not too long ago. And it's very long. I encourage everybody to read it. But the important thing that it says is that if you're reading this, I'm dead. So I wrote these letters for you. This is a father who dies, and he knows he's going to die when his son is very little, and writes letters for every stage of his life. But he's saying you must not open them before the right moment. And that's the thing. So when is the right moment? The right moment is when you want it. If you are into celebrities, this year has been tragic. But memorials, physical memorials for celebrities have been there forever. This is Jim Morrison's tombstone in Paris. People go there and remember, and they listen to the music when they want. But our lives are no longer lives that begin and end in this world, in a physical world, where you can have a marker like this. Our lives are digital also. They're made of pixels. They're all around us. And so when you die, this idea of the memorial, the tombstone, can be transferred to the online world, to the digital world. And so Prince just passed away. We can decide whether we want to visit this webpage. Except it doesn't work like this anymore. Every time you open your browser, every time you go on Facebook, you get at least a reminder of someone who's no longer there. This is my LinkedIn. People you may know. I work with Charles in California. Charles died. His LinkedIn, he wasn't married. He didn't have anybody to take care of his things. He didn't have a big family. He's still there. And every time this pops up on my LinkedIn, I remember him, but I don't remember him the way I want to remember him. I remember him the way an algorithm that we write, these are the things that we write, the things that we make, decides that, hey, you guys worked together 10 years ago. You should connect with him. And it gets even worse, because this is his Facebook page. It's still there. And Jorge, who worked with us, doesn't know that Charles is dead. And so every year, if you look at the dates, April 16 this year, April 16, last year. Happy birthday, Charles. And we all see it in our feeds. Charles is a coworker, so yes, I miss him, but it's not like if he were my boyfriend or my husband or my kids or my parents. What does that do to you when you see that? How do you feel? So speaking of social networks, it is estimated that currently there are about 12 billion and a half social media accounts. And there are 2.3 billion active social media users. That means that there are about 5.4 social media accounts per person in the world right now. So if you look at me, this is what it would look like, right? This is me on social media. These are my alternate lives. Except, as you know, as all of you know, it's more like this. And there are so many. Look at Hello. Who remembers Hello? Does anybody still have an account, uses it? We forget these kind of things. We don't have them. We just, who remembers Friendster? Nobody, right? MySpace. Oh yeah, I saw a hand there. Ooh, old-timers. But the thing is that there are all these versions of ourselves that are floating around. And the truth is that on social media, we do way more than posting about our wonderful meal with burrata that we had a while back, right? We do a lot more. So what are we going to do? We make these things. As I said, it's time to do something different. It's time to wake up and think about these things in a different way. Now, if we take the physical world, when we die, and I assume in the countries where you're from and here in Poland, things are very similar. When you die, your family has to take care of all sorts of things. Taxes, pensions, healthcare, all that stuff. Now, in UK, where I live now, there is this thing called Tell Us Once. And it's a government service. You call them up. You can do it online, but you call them up and you say, hey, so-and-so has died. My grandfather has died. And they take care of everything that's bureaucratic. But as I was saying, our lives online are much more than bureaucratic. Our digital interactions with the world go beyond what you can resolve with a phone call. So this is my friend Emma. Her father passed away, and she was trying to shut down his electricity. It took her 4 months. Those are 4 months that every time you pick up the phone or send an email to solve a practical problem in the world that could be solved by uploading one thing, one file, she remembers that her father is dead. And she doesn't remember it by looking at the photo. She remembers it in a situation of struggle. So the truth is that in the physical world, people are starting to wake up to the fact that we live also in a digital world. And so this is the state of Delaware. And the state of Delaware is recognizing that an increasing percentage of people's lives are being conducted online, and that this has posed challenges after a person dies or becomes incapacitated. Really? Of course it does. But much like in the physical world, we can dispose of our assets. How can we dispose of these assets that finally are being recognized? Who owns them? Who can do something with them? So Yahoo is really interesting. If you read the terms of service, and nobody ever does that, it says that when an individual signs up for a Yahoo account, they agree to our terms of service, which outline that neither their account nor their contents of their private communications are transferable at the time of death. So if they're not transferable, they stay there forever, or is there a way to say, actually, I don't want them to be there forever. I want them to be gone. what about Facebook? We're used to seeing these articles. Outside of the notifications that we get, we see these articles all the time. Parents that want access to their kids' Facebook pages. Husbands, wives, kids. Well, Facebook works pretty much the same way. Now, they are thinking about the problem. And they're saying that if you die, we all die, right? So this is something that should be default. But in preparation for your death, you can designate a legacy contact. So this is really interesting. I want you to think about this. I am dying, I know that I'm going to die eventually, and I'm giving the onus of deciding what to do with my own digital property, which goes beyond this bottle of water. It has some thoughts, it has some messages, it has some private things, and I'm telling someone else you deal with that. We'll get to that. But it doesn't need to be so emotional to be a hassle. Think about iPads, iTunes. Yes, there is iTunes family, but again, terms of services. And these are the terms of services, I want to remind you, for the things that we build, for the things that we design. They say that the content is for the end user only. Good luck trying to get into a loved one's iTunes account. Unless you're set up as a family, it doesn't happen. And even if you're set up as a family, you can't do anything. And the truth is that it can happen anytime. This is a friend of mine. Nothing happened. Everybody made it out safe. But it can happen anytime, and we don't think about this. I don't know if you've read the news this morning. 66 people on a plane disappeared. Not in Asia, in the Mediterranean. I'm getting on a plane tonight. Am I going to get home? I hope so. Do I know? I don't know. It can happen. So, if you think about yourselves, this is you yesterday. What do you want? Oh, I see someone pointing. You're recognizing yourself. When it comes to the physical world, as I was saying, not only we have choice, but there is a lot of change in the way death is handled. Designers have been thinking about it. Makers have been making things for it. So this is an Italian research. It's quite lovely. They put you in a biodegradable pod, and they're creating this memorial forest. It's reinventing the cemetery. You get buried, and a tree comes up, and you can pick the tree. It's quite cool. Or, because we have energy crisis, you could attach all sorts of electrodes and generate electricity. The chemistry of your body dying, decomposing, generates energy. Isn't it cool? It's amazing. Or, what if you're an artist and you've left your recordings, but you want to continue making music? Because, this is about living forever. This is a funerary urn. It's pretty cool. So that little stick that you see up there, really hollow, and once you're cremated, you can put your ashes inside. And so when the wind comes through it, it makes lovely music. It's pretty cool. We can choose. Or, you can go to crazy extremes. How much of you is familiar with the theory behind the weight of a soul? A few hands? Okay. So, this guy in the back, his name is Duncan McDougall. He was a physician, and in 1901, he decided to determine what the weight of a soul was. We have a body, we have a soul. How much does the soul weigh? So he spent a lot of time in a nursing home, And he weighed people right before they died and right after they died. Right before and right after. This was 1901. But he was scientific, and he determined that the weight of a soul is 21 grams. And so when you think about what you want to be when you're dead, what you want to do with your body, you can go into this. This is a female accessory that has a golden chamber where you can put exactly 21 grams of ashes. If this is your thing, go for it. So what do I want for myself? For myself, I want to be gone. I want a Viking funeral pyre. Put me on a boat, light it on fire. It's pretty cool. You can have a party around it, but that's how I want to go. I don't want to be in a box. I don't want to be under the earth. Trees are cool, but this is cooler. But then I think, I'm a bit selfish. It isn't about me after all. So I have 2 daughters, and I found out that there is this place in Switzerland where you can get your ashes turned into diamonds. They have these huge pressure machines. And so since there's going to be quite a bit of ashes with the ship and everything, I can have 2 big stones made for my daughters, right? That's cool. So that's how I want to go. But that's my physical body. This is what I want to do with my physical remains. What about all those social media accounts that I showed you? I did a bit of Googling, I did quite a bit of research. And so it turns out that there are a lot of services out there that are capitalizing on the business of death. And, that's cool because that employs us. We can design really slick things, we can make them, we can apply that thing that I cannot name or the microphone goes down. But, there's a lot of that. And one of them is this nefarious, sounds ominous. The truth is that even though they call themselves the last will on the web, all these people do is send an email on your behalf saying, hey, I'm dead. Cool. They don't take care of anything. There's this other thing, planned departure. I had such high hopes for this. It really is. It's not a bad service. It's a vault. I know that the woman behind one of the funders of this company. It's not bad, but it's just a vault for all of your stuff. I want to be gone. So I did what all of us do, Google our best friend, and and I look for delete digital presence afterlife, erase it. I'm not Radiohead. I don't have their resources. I don't know if you guys read that Radiohead completely deleted their presence from the internet in advance of the launch of their new record, but I'm not Radiohead, so I have Google. And it turns out that there's not a whole lot. So in Japan, there is this helpful service called Google Endings. And Google Endings, because a lot of people do tons of stuff on Google. They use it as a wallet, they use it for all sorts of things. So Google Endings will help you close down, shut down all the Google services. You can also buy a coffin, you can plan your funeral, you can do all sorts of things. But unfortunately, that's Japan. I don't live in Japan, and I don't speak Japanese, so I cannot read the terms and conditions. Now, in the Western world, there is a really interesting thing, and it's Google Inactive Account Manager. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if you are not, your homework is to go into your Google accounts, if you have them, and take a look at it. So what Inactive Account Manager does is it allows you to set a threshold of inactivity. After that threshold passes, you can decide what happens to your Google products. Meaning, if I set it to 3 months, if for 3 months I don't log on to any of my Google products, meaning YouTube, Gmail, etc., my account is set to be deleted. It doesn't have to be deleted, but I want to be gone, right? And the beautiful thing that Inactive Account Manager does is that it allows you to set preferences at a very granular level. So you can decide that you want your Gmail to go to your brother, and you want your YouTube to go to your kid, to this level, which is really, really interesting. And of course, it allows you to send an email. My email says, hello from the afterlife. Hello, what does it mean that my account is inactive? It could be one of several things, so don't panic just yet. But be aware that chances are that I may not be able to answer. It's not you, it's me. I'm gone. I'm gone, that's what I want. The thing is, I want to go. If I were to die on a plane tonight, and I hope not, knock on wood, I don't want you to remember me by my Twitter feed. I don't want you to remember me by my Facebook, not by my Medium post. Those are bits of who I am. If you have to remember me because we had a chat today. Because I said hi to you, or I bumped into you, or I tripped in front of you, or I said something stupid. But those things are not me. Unfortunately, where I can decide what I do with my email or my YouTube account, for all the other accounts, what it's going to come down to is that someone will either forget them or is going to have to go to court to gain ownership or to get them shut down. And that isn't right. Now, there are ways to have other people handle your things. Lastpass, which is my favorite password manager, is now encouraging its users to create a digital will, to designate someone as their contact. But in the spirit of being gone, think for a second about what you have in your Twitter, in your Telegram, in your Instagram. And think about the people who will get the key to your password manager. Do you really want them to have access to everything that's in there? Now, I don't have a double life. I don't have secrets. But if my husband were to read my email, he may find emails that I sent to my best friend when we had a fight. Is that what I want him to see? Is that what I want him to remember? So think about what you have in your own social media accounts. Now that you've thought about that, think about what we can do. What I tried to do, because before being a designer I was a coder, was to hack my own kill switch. So I said, if Google Inactive Account Manager can delete my accounts, why can I not create a recipe to create a massive domino effect and kill all of my things? Doesn't work like that. Just doesn't work like that. Because there are no standards, because the way we think about the things that we make is that we get really, really focused on how we bring users in, on how the interactions work, on what they look like. But we don't think what happens when people want to get off. When you want to get off a car, you turn the engine off, open the door, and you go away. When you want to turn off your social media accounts or your online presence, there's no kill switch. In case you're interested, there is this Just Delete Me, this website that ranks and links to all the deletion procedures of, an incredible number of online accounts. Some are easy. I think one of the easiest I've seen is this online collaboration tool called Real Time Board. There is a button that says Just Delete. But again, there has to be someone who clicks it. And some are impossible. So if we can't even close our own accounts when we're alive, how can we close them when we die? And it really is a line of code. It shouldn't be that difficult. But why does this matter? It matters for a series of reasons, but primarily is because this is what the next billion internet users are going to look like. And it's already started looking like this. And some of them are like Jeremy Bentham, you know. He died in 1832, but is still going to parties in Hong Kong. This is funny. When it's my friend Charles, or your sister, or your mother, it's not funny, it's painful. And the truth is that it's about choice. If this is how you want to die, go for it. If this is what you want your people to have, a digital cemetery with all your stuff, go for it. If you want to live forever, and you want to be able to be asked questions when you're an avatar, go for it. But think about that avatar thing for a second. Here it says, and people in the future could actually interact with your memories. Ask Marlena a question. Is that Marlena, really? So I don't know, in the UK there is this fantastic show called Black Mirror. I don't know how much of you are familiar with it. Quite a few, good. So, season 2, episode 1 is called Be Right Back. And it talks exactly about this. So we write artificial intelligence. Is artificial intelligence us, even if it's based on corpus of our information, of our thoughts? So as I was saying, season 2, episode 1, a couple has just gotten married, moved into a house. The husband is returning the removal van, and he dies. And his wife is distraught. She finds out she's pregnant, and a friend of hers tells her that there is a service. You know, if you give them access to his email and to your messages, you can exchange emails with him. He will respond to you. And so she does that for a little bit. And then there is the next level. If you have voicemails and family videos, you can upload those too. And so you can video chat with him and he will call you. And so she does that too. And then there is another level, but that's expensive. And in that level, you can buy a default body and activate it, and it looks like him, and he talks like him.
I know he's dead, but I can sign you up to something that helps. It will let you speak to him. And don't worry, you won't even have to do anything. I'll just assign... Shut up! You click the link, and you talk to it. It mimics him. And reads through all the things they've ever said online. The more it has, the more it's him.
So, how am I sounding?
You sound just like him.
This might sound a bit creepy. There's another level to this available. It's starting already. Don't...
But is it him? It's on Netflix. Go watch it. In the meantime, for people like me, and probably some of you, who just want to disappear, until you guys help out, until you guys design those things, write that code that allows me to make this choice, I can't. This is what we need to begin to think about, to design it, to make it. It's offboarding. Forget onboarding. I mean, onboarding is complicated. But everybody's thinking about onboarding. This is what you have to think about. And until we do, people like me will always be like a tiny, tiny dot somewhere in the pixels. Thank you.